Hello and welcome to Conservation Matters. I'm Shane Mahoney, and I have dedicated my life to the conservation of wild animals and wild places. I invite you to join me as I explore the science, the issues, and the challenges impacting global conservation in the 21st century. Together, we will seek solutions, and together, we can affect change. Conservation, after all, is everybody's business. One natural world, one humanity, one chance. Conservation matters. To learn more, please visit conservationvisions.com. Thanks for listening.
First of all, I'd like to express my gratitude to Dallas Safari Club for asking me back again. It is a delight to be with you. As we look around the world today, ladies and gentlemen, it is pretty easy to understand why the global community is looking for leadership. There are circumstances prevailing in the world which suggest that if we do not do something different from what we have been doing up to this point in time, the circumstances that will face us as human beings throughout the world, not only in the United States of America, but throughout the world, are going to formulate challenges for human society that up to this point in time we have proven unable to meet. And as somebody who is not an American citizen, I would like to give you my thoughts on the greatness of America. I think this is particularly important because, as I understand it, this is Youth Night. This is the time when your organization is attempting to give to the next generation of Americans a sense of idealism, a sense of purpose, and a sense of commitment to the natural resources of your nation and to your society. You have been amongst the most improbable experiments in human history. You were a complete outpost of civilization in the latter part of the 18th century. And you introduced to the world the standards by which nation states throughout this globe, on the only planet we have come to evaluate the progress of their nations. It has become fashionable around the world to denigrate the United States of America, and every American in this room knows it. But the reality is that you gave the world the ideas of popular sovereignty. You gave the world the ideas of unfettered citizenry and the rule of law applied to all equal citizens. You gave the world this. We have come to term it democracy. Whether we call it democracy or liberalism really doesn't make any difference. The fact of the matter is, you changed the course of history. And at that seminal moment, you threw up in your midst a college of intellectuals and a pantheon of ideas that was seldom matched in the history of the world. And I know world history well. And these achievements of the United States of America are now recognized throughout the world. And as I have said, every progressive nation-state in the world community strives to achieve these objectives in one form or another. But there is another achievement that your nation is responsible for that is equal to these, and yet for which you are not recognized. And not only are you not recognized for it around the world, your own people do not recognize you for it. 95% at least of your citizenry and the citizenry of Canada, who joined with you in this great adventure, also remain ignorant of this achievement. And I am suggesting to you this evening at this meeting that in addition to your achievements in democracy, in addition to your achievements of the equality of citizens under rule of law, the conservation movement that was launched by a handful of citizens and joined by the majority of progressive Americans in the latter part of the 19th century, formulated and driven by the icons such as Teddy Roosevelt and the Boone and Crockett Club of America, and founded and led and achieved and still driven by the hunters of your nation, should stand as equal to the achievements that you are recognized for. You gave birth in those years to the only continental system of conservation that yet exists in the world. It is the only continental system. Canada and the United States share this system. The American people led this. You were the giants who strode before the rest of the world in this regard. The sustainable use movement that the world entire now regards as fundamental to the conservation of the world's resources and the preservation of progressive societies was launched in your country. How many of you know this? How many of your children know this? How many of your educators know this? The answer to those questions, ladies and gentlemen, is that far too few know it. When America launched the conservation movement led by hunters and anglers in the latter part of the 19th century, you faced enormous odds. There were major obstacles in your way. This was not an easy turn of events, any more than independence was an easy turn of events, any more than the establishment of democracy was an easy turn of events. To put wildlife and natural resources as something sacred to the heart of a nation, and to understand that it became a symbol of citizenry to protect those resources. To the young people who are going to be honored in this country and in this evening here, I want you to understand something. I am not an American citizen. I do not believe that America is perfect. I do not believe that your political leadership is always right. But what I do fundamentally believe is that just as the gifts you have given and are recognized to have given to the world were the results of extraordinary determination to succeed against all odds, so must you as young people today ensure that the issue of conservation and the issue of sustainable use and the role that hunting can play in the conservation of wildlife remains at the forefront of the thinking of your society. We cannot let this slip, ladies and gentlemen, not simply because it is nice for us to have evenings such as this. We cannot let this slip because we are learning around the world that unless there is vested interest, unless wildlife is shown to be valued and has a use, it ultimately disappears. And those wild creatures that we hunt, those wild creatures give us something that nothing else in our lives can give us. The other. Perhaps some people don't care about the history of America. The other lesson that the United States of America has given to the world is the proof of the power of the individual. And I want every young person in this room and every young person who is touched by Dallas Safari Club to understand that individuals in your country change the world. And that as we go forward in the 21st century, it is individuals who will continue to change it. I recommend to the United States of America, to its political leadership past and present, to the leadership of its military and its economic forums, to the leadership of its banking world and the leadership of its social innovators, I recommend that we retreat. We retreat under the banner of conservation back to the time when the scale of American imagination surpassed the rest of the world's. To the time when the capacity for innovation in the United States of America surpassed the world's. When the intellectual strength of this country threw up a pantheon of men and women who stood, in my view, comparable to the intellectual strength of Greece and Rome. At the time of your independence, it was an extraordinary array of capacity that your country gave to the world, and you changed the world as a result of it. Conservation is not a side issue. The conservation of the natural resources of the world will determine the fate of this planet. The conservation of natural resources will determine the future of warfare. We will fight over oil. We will fight over land. We will fight over timber. And we will fight over fish. And we will fight over water. That is what the future wars of this world will be fought over. And it's for those purposes that your sons and daughters will give their blood. Now, we have a choice to make. And that choice is whether we will put conservation at the level it should be. And the level in society that conservation should achieve. And I implore this organization to play their part. The level that conservation should achieve is the level of justice, is the level of peace, is the level of human rights. It's the level of individual freedom. Conservation is not something that's nice for a small group of people to spend part of their time doing. It ought to be the heartland of the mission of a nation. It is easy enough in today's world for people to believe that the challenges before us are too great to be solved. I'm asking you as American citizens, and I'm asking you as members of Dallas Safari Club, I'm asking you as parents, I'm asking you as individuals, please understand that the greatness of your nation was as much founded on the attitudes that you developed towards the conservation of natural resources as it was based on anything else. The greatness of your country will be seen by what you do with these natural resources. The hunters of the United States of America and of Canada united in forming a movement for the conservation of wildlife that is now over 100 years old and is still succeeding. And I will tell you that if we can look back 100 years from now and understand that this movement is still alive, that hunting is still alive in our midst, and that conservation still matters to this country, then this country will still be great. I wish you all the very best, and I thank you for everything you have done and will do in the future. God bless.